Hello everybody, welcome back to Tin Man's Corner channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'll be reading another chapter out of my Bigfoot Terror Tales Vol.1, hence why I'm facing the camera near my Christmas tree, just for like a little background. Now let me turn it this way a little bit. Okay. So anyway, the chapter out of this book that I'll be reading is called Unleashing Terror, which already sounds menacing enough. And I already looked through the pages. There's like 5-6 pages in here, so I might have to end up doing 2 parts. But anyway, let's get to it, shall we? And the story is by Janice, Gable, Bashman. So here we go. Rick Stone slammed the door to his locker, and the metallic clang echoed throughout the room. Propping one leg on the wooden bench in front of him, he strapped a K-bar knife to his right boot, a Glock 22 40 Smith & Wesson loading with 15 rounds was holstered at his hip. 2 additional magazines, each also holding 15 rounds, were secured in the double pouch on his belt. So by the way, this kind of sets up that this guy is loaded, ready to go. Get a move on it, Lawson, Rick said. We don't got it. Jared Lawson finished buttoning his navy shirt and tucked it into his khakis. So, what are we doing anyway? I know it's security, but what? They didn't tell you when you signed on? Just that if I broke the code or told anyone about what I was doing, they'll lock me up for life. But my buddy Ronnie said it's good work and good pay. So I filled out an application when he told me his job was opening up. Had to pass a background check and all before they gave me the job. But I'm clean. Ronnie's your buddy? I didn't know that. How's he like his new place in Chicago? He's cool. Lawson closed his locker, spun the lock, and yanked on the handle to ensure it didn't open. Let's get moving. The boat's already loaded. The boat. Where are we going? I'll fill you in on the way. Stone and Lawson headed down to the dock and boarded the Red Lion, a 33-foot steel-welded vessel capable of moving at 11 knots. Man, that's a big ship. Good name too, Red Lion. I like that. The open stern was packed with boxes of fruit and vegetables and a huge pile of deer parts. Lawson cut Stone a look that was a mixture of revulsion and curiosity, but Stone said nothing. He just started up the Red Lion and maneuvered away from the dock, eyes fixed on the river. Stone slapped an open palm on the wooden frame of the wheelhouse. So, what is all this food for? Right before all countries war, people all over the globe reported sighting these huge creatures. I figured they're carrying some food and some other stuff as bait, probably. It wasn't like 1 or 2 or even a dozen. I'm sure you heard about it on the news. Some people called them Bigfoot, others called them Sasquatch. Yeah, I heard about them. What of it? From his front shirt pocket, Stone pulled out 2 pieces of bubble gum, offered one to Lawson, who took it, and then unwrapped a piece for himself and tossed it into his mouth. He chewed a bit before continuing. Indian legend has it that Bigfoot sightings, or the Big Hairy Man, as they call it, only occurred during times of trouble. That the sightings were messages to humans to change their ways or face disaster. I always wonder if that's what the Bigfoots are doing now, trying to scare you or whatever. But Lawson rapidly tapped his finger against the wood. So what? So they could caught a bunch of them this time. They got them in Pennsylvania, California, Arkansas, and North Dakota. What? Who caught them? How do you catch something that ain't real? Well, that's just the thing, Stone said. They are real. Up until right before the war, no one really knew for sure. People have claimed to have sighted them for hundreds of years, but no one ever caught one before. After the Bigfoot moved in on villages and cities and murdered women and children. They're mean son of a guns, I tell you. But anyway, the government had no choice, so they sent in the military. I don't know why those Bigfoot decided to attack people after all those years of hiding, but it's changed everything. Maybe they did it because we just wouldn't listen, polluting up everything and damaging the world like we did. That could be a reason. Or they're just getting tired of you getting in their territory. I can't say I blame them. We did need a wake-up call, and the war sure wasn't the way to go about doing it. If we had just paid attention and noticed the messages they were sending, then maybe the war wouldn't have happened. All them hundreds of thousands of people killed for nothing. Stone bit his bottom lip. At first the troops killed the Bigfoot, but there were too many of them, so someone high up figured it would make more sense to study some of them, see what makes them tick, then go from there. He turned the wheel to the left and the boat changed direction. I'm not saying we should have done what we done to them, and there's not much we can do about it now. The Bigfoot have been living like that for a decade already, and I doubt they'd survive even if they were released. You mean they got those things locked up somewhere? Aren't they like 9 feet tall? Yeah, bigger than that, pal. Anyway. Stone cracked a smile. Yeah, they are. You'll see for yourself soon enough. Lawson stepped backwards until the wood pressed hard into his spine. What? Where are you taking me? To the ship graveyard. Wonder why you need to go there. But anyway. About 20 minutes later, Stone stopped the boat at the security barrier that surrounded the graveyard and punched in the passcode. The hydraulic system raised 2 large portions of the barrier until they pointed at the sky like rectangular missiles. He maneuvered the red lion through the passage, and the barrier automatically closed behind the boat. Straight ahead was a half-submerged wooden ship listening toward the stern portholes, empty of glass, huge beams broken like twigs, algae growing along the hull. To the left was a tall ship with a 20-foot mast. The flag of origin was tattered and torn, and all that remained was a scrap of red fabric fluttering in the slight breeze. There were tugboats, navy vessels, cargo ships, and more, all stripped down to their skeletons, hulking pieces of wood or metal, rotten and rusting in the sun-warmed water. Yeah, I hate that too. You know, like old history is just starting to go away. You'll see over there, Stone said, pointing. That ship, the one that's bigger than the others, you can kind of see it between those two right there. It's the one that's not half in the water. Lawson turned his head to look. That's where the Bigfoot are. Okay, you mean to tell me you're keeping Bigfoot in a ship? Oh, now I heard it all, folks. Anyway, once we go around these last few ships, we should be there in a few minutes. Is that them moving on the deck? It's nothing to worry about. The ship was modified before they got on board, and they can't come near us. Just do as you're told, and you'll be fine. I've been doing this for years. The boat swung wide around a tugboat. Gaping holes marked the metallic hull right above the waterline. Stone eased the red line next to the vessel with the Bigfoot aboard. She sure is something, isn't she? He said. At one time, she was top of her class. Ran the Atlantic and the Pacific in her day at top speeds. They brought the Kirkwood here to die, but then figured they can use her again to house the Bigfoot. Really, folks, I mean, come on. I'll be astonished to see a boat holding Bigfoot on. I don't get it, Lawson said. Why put him out here? Why not in a jail? I mean, really, dude? They might be able to bend the bars with that thing, but anyway. Stone stared at the ship. It's safer that way. If they ever broke out of jail, it would be a big problem. But this far from shore, there's no chance of that. They can swim, but we're 2.5 miles out. Stone could tell Lawson was nervous by the pinched look on his face, so he shot him a smile and added, "Give it a few days and you'll ease into it." Stone positioned the Red Lion and they tied the boat to the cleat on the other vessel. "We're all set. You ready?" Lawson pushed back his shoulders and nodded. "Let's do this." They walked to the stern and Stone tossed him a pair of work gloves. They pulled out their gloves and began throwing the deer meat into an empty lift that ran up the side of the Kirkwood. When the lift was full, Stone hopped on the platform that jutted off the edge of the lift and indicated with 2 fingers for Lawson to join him. Lawson hesitated, looked up at the Kirkwood, whose deck loomed above him, and then climbed on board. He grabbed onto the metal bar in front of him so tightly his knuckles turned bone white. Man, he's really getting... I hope he don't scream, but anyway. Stone punched in a password and activated the controls. The lift crept up to the ship's deck and stopped. Stone jumped off, Lawson following, and moved to a hatch and unlocked it. He thrust his fingers through the steel grate and pulled up the hatch cover, then latched the cover to the 2-foot-long bracket that jutted off or out from the wall. "Just put the meat down the hole and then we'll bring up the vegetables." "How deep's the hole?" Lawson said as he tossed in a piece of meat. It landed with a faint thud. 15 feet. Good lordy. Those Bigfoots eat a lot. Good lordy. The Bigfoot access is from below. They pretty much have the run of the ship except for a few key areas. And there are video cameras in common areas on deck, in the kitchen, and in a few of the staterooms. Dr. Roberts over at the university has been studying them since they got here. It's pretty fascinating stuff. Seems they have families and kids and everything. Sure, whatever. Lawson dug his fingers into the pile of meat and grabbed as much as he could and dropped it into the hole. When they finished a few minutes later, Stone secured the hatch. They boarded the platform and lowered to the ship. "I didn't realize how many boats were out here," Lawson said. Casting his view across the water, "There's got to be at least 50 of them. 72 to be exact." Woo! That's a lot of boats in a junkyard. But anyway, back when it was open to the public, there didn't used to be so many. Kayakers rolled in here all the time to check out the ships. Anyway, 6 more loads should do it, and then we'll be out of here. We could grab some lunch or whatever, and then around 3:30 or so, we'll make our second run. When they pulled up to the Kirkwood at 3:47 p.m., the sun-painted broken ship surrounded them with a palette of rich coppers, browns, and blacks, along with bright greens where the algae grew on the holes. They offloaded the deer meat first and boarded the lift. This time around, Lawson seemed more relaxed. He wrapped 2 fingers against the metal bar and took in the size as they rose. He cracked a smile and said, "You know, this ain't too bad. I can think of a lot worse jobs." "Yeah, me too," said Stone. "It's kind of relaxing out here in a strange sort of way. That is, once you get used to the grunts and the other noises that the Bigfoot make." They hit topside, boarded the ship, and began to unload the meat into the hatch. Halfway into the job, Stone heard a hoot from the left, and then another followed by one more. He spun toward the noise, but it had already stopped. "What was that?" Lawson asked, wide-eyed. "It's nothing. The sounds they make bounce all over the ship. Sometimes they seem like they're right next to you." He reached down and threw another handful of meat into the hatch. "Ain't you got going to check it out. Stone sighed. He knew if he didn't investigate, Lawson would be jumping the rest of the day, and it would take twice as long to finish. Wait here, I'll be right back. He crossed the deck, turned the corner, and froze. Lawson plowed into his back, and he stumbled forward before stopping. Mouth wide open, Stone stared at the creature before him, approximately 4 feet tall, dark brown hair covering its body, large head, flat nose, muscular thighs, a brown pipe in its hand, and a stench worse than landfill rotten in the boiling sun. Ugh. Stone inched his hand to his waist until he found his Glock. The Bigfoot was definitely a baby. But how did it get up there? Bigfoot didn't have access to this part of the ship. And what was it doing with a pipe? Stone and the Bigfoot watched each other in silence. From behind him, he heard Lawson's heavy breaths mixed with stifled gagging. Do something, Lawson whispered after a long 10 seconds. With his eyes still fixed on the Bigfoot, Stone said, Like what? Shoot it or something. Are you crazy? It's just a baby. So what? First of all, I'll be like him, being like, yeah, it's a baby. I wouldn't mess with those. But anyway, folks, I'm going to stop this video right here. And we'll get straight to part 2, alright? See you guys then.